Are you lifting weights, eating healthy, yet still watching your muscle mass quietly fade? Or maybe you've noticed the mirror reflects a once strong physique that now feels softer, weaker, more vulnerable. This isn't just about aesthetics. Your muscle is the core of your metabolic engine, your mobility, your energy, and even your longevity. So when you lose muscle, you lose more than strength. You lose resilience, health span, and metabolic control. But here's the good news, you can rebuild it. And you don't need gimmicks, extreme diets, or magic pills. In fact, there's one often overlooked food that science shows with precision is more effective at building muscle and combating age-related muscle loss, known as sarcopenia, than many mainstream choices. I'm talking about a high-quality lean red meat or equivalent whole food rather than the usual go-to like sardines, salmon, or fatty fish. What the research shows is that this particular whole food triggers muscle protein synthesis more effectively in older adults, supports muscle function, and combats sarcopenia when used intelligently. PubMed Plus 2. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your muscle is a metabolic tissue, not just a static asset. It's constantly being broken down and rebuilt. As you age or as you stress your system with inflammation, poor nutrition, sedentary lifestyle, your muscle synthesis slows, breakdown speeds up, and you tip into a net muscle loss state. That's sarcopenia. Root cause thinking says we need to stimulate synthesis, improve anabolism, reduce catabolism, and provide the right nutrients so your body can rebuild what it's losing. In this talk, we'll explore the 6 critical science-backed insights you must know to optimize your muscle building and reverse sarcopenia, starting with choosing the right food. Yes, that food. Understanding how it works physiologically, and then implementing everyday protocols you can use immediately. Because we don't just want to talk about muscle building, we want to do it sustainably without overcomplication. Here are the big promise takeaways. You'll discover which food and why outperforms many healthy defaults when it comes to building muscle in aging adults. You'll understand how the physiology works, how muscle protein synthesis, amino acids, hormonal signals, insulin, growth factors all tie in. You'll get clear protocols, how much, when, alongside what, and with what lifestyle support, exercise, sleep, nutrient timing to make this work. You'll learn how this ties into metabolic health, fat loss, and longevity, because muscle isn't separate from fat or metabolism. It's deeply connected. If this sounds helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post deep evidence-based content like this to help you reclaim your metabolism, muscle, energy, and health span. Before we go deeper, let's lay out the 6 science-backed insights we'll be unpacking in this talk, each one addressing a core cause of muscle decline, and more importantly, the physiological switch to turn it back on. Insight Gen 1, the real root of muscle loss, anabolic resistance. Here's what's really going on inside your body. As we age, our muscles stop responding efficiently to protein. Even when we eat the right foods, our cells don't hear the anabolic signal clearly. This is called anabolic resistance. We'll talk about how to overcome it, not just by eating more protein, but by choosing the right kind that reactivates muscle synthesis at the cellular level. Insight Gen 2, the forgotten food that outperforms sardines. While sardines and fish are healthy, they're not the most efficient muscle builders. We'll reveal the food that research shows provides a superior amino acid profile, rich in leucine, creatine, and heme iron, and triggers stronger MPS, muscle protein synthesis. You'll learn what this food is, why it works, and how to use it strategically without overdoing it. Insight Gen 3, the leucine threshold. Your body's muscle switch. Muscle doesn't grow just because you eat protein. It grows when you cross the leucine threshold. Leucine is the amino acid that signals your body to start building muscle. We'll break down the science, explain how much you need, and show you how to hit that threshold even if you're older or plant-based. Insight Gen 4, mitochondria, muscle, and longevity. Your muscle cells are packed with mitochondria, the engines of your metabolism. When you lose muscle, you lose mitochondrial density, energy, and metabolic flexibility. We'll look at how this food combined with movement and fasting reactivates your mitochondrial function and protects against aging. Insight Gen 5. Timing is everything. The 3 key windows for protein. The same food at different times. creates totally different results. We'll talk about the metabolic timing of protein, especially post-workout morning and evening, and how to use your body's circadian rhythm to make every gram of protein count. And if you find this kind of science simplified helpful, consider subscribing. I share these frameworks every week. Insights in 6. Beyond protein, the nutrient synergy for growth. Finally, building muscle isn't just about protein. It's about micronutrient cofactors: magnesium, vitamin D, creatine, zinc, and omega-3s, all of which enhance the anabolic signal. We'll put this together into a practical daily framework to rebuild muscle and fight sarcopenia naturally. Let's start with a truth most people never hear at the gym. Losing muscle with age isn't inevitable. It's not because your body can't build muscle anymore. It's because your body has stopped listening to the signal to grow. That silent breakdown is called anabolic resistance. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Every time you eat protein, your digestive system breaks it down into amino acids. Those amino acids enter your bloodstream and send a message to your muscle cells: build, repair. But as you age, chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, poor sleep, inactivity, and oxidative stress all interfere with how well that message is received. Imagine your muscle cells as a factory, and protein is the delivery truck bringing in raw materials. In your 20s, that truck drives straight in, and production begins instantly. By your 50s or 60s, the security gate gets rusty, the sensors stop recognizing the delivery, and the truck idles outside while muscle breakdown quietly continues inside. That's anabolic resistance. It's not that you lack protein, it's that your muscles can't utilize it effectively. Research published in the Journal of Cachexia, Sarcopenia and Muscle, 2024, shows that older adults often require 40 grams of high-quality protein per meal to trigger the same muscle-building response that 20 grams would produce in a young adult. The threshold for activation simply rises. So the root cause is not protein deficiency, it's protein inefficiency. Now, what drives that inefficiency? It's insulin resistance. When your cells stop responding properly to insulin, your body's ability to shuttle amino acids into muscle weakens. Inflammation. High cytokine levels block the mTOR pathway, the molecular switch that tells your muscle to start synthesizing new tissue. Sedentary lifestyle, muscle tissue that isn't used becomes metabolically deaf. It forgets how to respond to anabolic signals. Poor mitochondrial function, fewer healthy mitochondria, mean lower cellular energy, and without energy, muscle synthesis slows dramatically. So if you're eating well but your strength is fading, don't blame your age, blame the signal. Here's how to fix it. Step 1, activate your muscle before you feed it. Resistance training or even brisk walking primes your muscle cells to absorb nutrients. It literally opens the door. Step 2, prioritize complete proteins, those rich in leucine, isoleucine, and valine. These are the amino acids that reignite mTOR and flip the growth switch. Step 3, reduce chronic inflammation through real food, fasting, omega-3s, and blood sugar stability. You can't grow muscle in an inflamed environment. What the research shows is that when anabolic resistance is reversed, even slightly, muscle protein synthesis can improve by up to 50% in older adults within weeks. That's not theory, that's measurable physiology. So before worrying about supplements or expensive powders, focus on repairing your cells' responsiveness. Because once your muscle starts hearing again, every bite of food works harder for you. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post evidence-based breakdowns like this every week to help you restore your energy, metabolism, and longevity naturally. Now that we've understood the underlying barrier, anabolic resistance, let's talk about a very practical, concrete solution. One specific whole food that research shows can outperform many popular defaults, like sardines when it comes to building muscle and reversing sarcopenia. Here's what's really going on inside your body. You eat protein, your muscles get amino acids, and when the stimulus is strong enough, muscle protein synthesis, MPS, ramps up. But if the amino acids are lower quality, the signal is weaker and your muscle building engines sputter. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your building site. You need bricks, amino acids, and a strong foreman, the anabolic signal. If you use soft, crumbly bricks, the foreman will hesitate and construction slows. But when you use high quality bricks that fit together well, the foreman gives the green light and the building goes up fast. In recent human research, the difference between soft bricks and high quality bricks has become clear. A controlled trial in older adults ages 65-85 compared a whole food meal based on lean beef with a nutritionally matched vegan whole food meal. What the researchers found was striking. MPS muscle protein synthesis rates were 7% higher after the beef meal compared to the vegan one. In other words, when older muscle tissue was given high-quality animal protein, the building crew responded much more strongly. Let's be clear, I'm not saying fish, sardines, salmon, or plant proteins are worthless. They have value, but if your goal is serious muscle maintenance, repair, and longevity, especially as you age, the research supports prioritizing a higher quality, leucine-rich source of animal protein. So what is this forgotten food? It's lean red meat, such as lean beef or lamb. Why lean red meat? Because it provides a complete amino acid profile, including high leucine content. Leucine is the key amino acid that triggers the start building signal. Heme iron, which supports energy production and mitochondrial health. Creatine and carnitine, which support muscle metabolism and recovery. A strong protein matrix that appears to stimulate MPS more robustly than many plant or lower quality animal sources. What the research shows is that when older adults consumed lean red meat in combination with resistance training, they experienced improved muscle mass and strength relative to control groups. One study in older women found that a high protein diet via lean red meat plus strength training increased muscle strength by about 18% more than training alone. Today's geriatric medicine doc. Here's the root cause thinking. Older muscles are less responsive to protein. Anabolic resistance. Lean red meat offers a stronger stimulus, higher quality bricks, and when paired with training helps overcome that resistance. Fix the signal, not just the food. Practical protocol and tools. How to apply this insight in real life. Choose lean red meat 2-3 times per week. Aim for about 100-150 gram cooked weight, roughly 30-40 grams of protein per serving. Make it part of a movement day. On the days you do resistance training or high-quality muscular work, prioritize the meat serving. That's when your muscle is primed and the door is open. Balance with anti-inflammatory support. Because red meat can be heavy if every meal is meat-centric, pair it with vegetables rich in antioxidants. Avoid processed meats and keep overall saturated fat moderate. Space your protein meals. Don't load all your protein at dinner. Have one meat-rich meal post-training or midday, then other high-quality proteins morning and evening to hit your daily threshold. You tiered the 1.2 dry grams body weight day for older adults as recommended in reviews. Complement with resistance training and recovery. Without muscular stimulus, even the best food will not fully drive adaptation. Your protocol mentions 3 or 4 kaiba you have resistance work or body weight loaded movements, allowing 48H recovery, good sleep, and minimal excessive cardio. If this insight is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I publish deep dive practical videos like this every week to help you reclaim your metabolic strength and longevity. Why this matters for fat loss, metabolism, and longevity. You might ask, what does muscle have to do with my fat loss or longevity? Much more than you think. Muscle is metabolically active tissue. It consumes energy, helps regulate glucose, supports insulin sensitivity, and maintains mobility, which supports activity and energy expenditure. When you lose muscle, your metabolic engine shrinks. That makes fat loss harder, energy levels drop, and aging acceleration kicks in. By prioritizing lean red meat as a high-leverage food, you're giving your body the tools to rebuild muscle, improve metabolic flexibility, and resist sarcopenia. This is one of those natural, sustainable interventions that benefits multiple systems, not just your biceps. Here's something most people don't realize. You can eat plenty of protein and still not build muscle, simply because you never cross the leucine threshold. Let me explain what that means. Inside every muscle cell is a molecular switch called mTOR, short for mammalian target of rapamycin. Think of mTOR as your body's build signal. When it's turned on, your body starts muscle protein synthesis. MPS, amino acids, are assembled into new muscle fibers. When it's off, muscle stays in maintenance mode or slowly breaks down. Now, the key that flips that switch is an amino acid called leucine. Leucine isn't just one of the building blocks. It's the foreman of the entire construction site. Without enough leucine present in your bloodstream, the foreman never gives the order to start building, no matter how many other amino acids are waiting. Here's what's really going on inside your body. After a meal, leucine levels rise in the blood. If the concentration crosses a specific threshold, typically 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine per meal for older adults, the mTOR pathway is fully activated and your muscle starts synthesizing new protein. Below that level, the signal is too weak and the process never begins. This is where many people, especially older adults or those relying on plant-based proteins, struggle. Most common protein sources simply don't reach the leucine threshold per serving. Let me give you a visual analogy. Imagine leucine as a key that needs to turn a lock. The lock is your mTOR switch. You can jiggle it all you want with half a key, but unless you have the full 3 grams, the door stays closed. That's why eating a small serving of fish or a single scoop of plant protein often fails to trigger muscle growth. The key never turns. Now, here's where that forgotten food, lean red meat, shines. A 4-ounce, 120-gram serving of cooked lean beef provides around 2.7 grams of leucine, enough to fully activate MPS in most adults. Compare that with the same portion of sardines or lentils, which typically provide only 1.4, 1.8 grams of leucine, barely half the activation signal. And what the research shows is powerful. When older adults consume a single meal with sufficient leucine, MPS can rise 50 to 60% above baseline within 90 minutes, even in the presence of anabolic resistance. Journal of Applied Physiology. So instead of chasing total protein grams alone, focus on per meal leucine dose. Because the real secret to fighting sarcopenia isn't just more protein, it's enough of the right amino acid at the right time. Practical protocol: hitting the leucine threshold. Target 2.53 grams of leucine per meal. 30-40 gram high-quality animal protein, beef, eggs, chicken, whey isolate, or 45-50 g high-quality plant protein, soy isolate, pea rice blend. Distribute protein evenly. 3 meals with at least 25-35 g each instead of one big dinner. This gives your muscles multiple growth pulses through the day. Add leucine-rich supplements if needed. 2-3 g leucine powder or 5-7 g BCAAs pre or post-workout can help older adults who struggle with appetite. Pair leucine with activity. Exercise sensitizes your muscle cells to leucine. Resistance training followed by a leucine-rich meal amplifies the growth signal dramatically. Avoid constant grazing. Keep at least 3-4 hours between protein meals. If you constantly sip protein shakes, your body stays in a gray zone, never low enough to reset mTOR, never high enough to activate it. Here's the bottom line. If you're eating well but still losing muscle, the problem isn't the food, it's the threshold. Once you cross it consistently, your body starts rebuilding itself again, meal by meal. If this makes sense so far, hit that subscribe button. I post weekly videos like this, translating complex metabolic science into clear daily strategies to help you rebuild strength, energy, and longevity. Let's zoom out for a second. When we talk about muscle, most people think of biceps or tone, but physiologically, your muscle is far more than that. It's a metabolic organ, one of the largest and most energy-hungry tissues in your body. And deep inside every muscle fiber lives the key to your vitality. Your mitochondria. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your mitochondria are tiny power plants that convert nutrients into energy, ATP. They're what let your heart beat, your brain think, and your muscles contract. The stronger and more numerous they are, the more energy you have, physically, mentally, and metabolically. Now, as muscle mass declines with age, something even more dangerous happens. Mitochondrial density drops. You don't just lose tissue, you lose energy factories. That's why sarcopenia often feels like fatigue, brain fog, and slower recovery. It's literally a loss of power production at the cellular level. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body as a city and your mitochondria as the power grid. If you close half the power stations, lights start flickering, traffic lights fail, and the whole system slows. That's what metabolic aging looks like. But when you build or maintain muscle, you reopen those power plants, energy flows again, hormones stabilize, and you feel younger because your cells are literally more energized. What the research shows is remarkable. In a 2024 review from Frontiers in Aging, scientists found that resistance training combined with high-quality protein can increase mitochondrial content and efficiency in adults over 60, restoring mitochondrial function to levels similar to people 20 years younger. Another 2025 study from Nature Metabolism reported that individuals with higher muscle-to-fat ratios had significantly lower markers of oxidative stress, better insulin sensitivity, and up to 40% lower risk of all-cause mortality. In other words, muscle isn't just your strength tissue, it's your metabolic longevity organ. So where does nutrition fit in? That same lean red meat we discussed earlier isn't only rich in leucine, it's also a top source of creatine, carnitine, and coenzyme Q10, nutrients that feed mitochondrial function. Creatine helps shuttle energy between mitochondria and muscle fibers. Carnitine transports fatty acids into the mitochondria to be burned as fuel. CoQ10 acts like a spark plug, igniting the energy transfer chain. Together, these compounds help your mitochondria produce ATP efficiently, the ultimate anti-fatigue, anti-aging mechanism. Here's the root cause thinking. When mitochondrial output improves, your body becomes metabolically flexible, able to switch between burning fat and glucose with ease. That's why people who build muscle often notice they can fast longer, think clearer, and recover faster. It's not magic, it's biochemistry. Tactical protocol, rebuilding mitochondrial muscle. Lift, don't just move. Resistance training is the one mitochondrial stimulant in muscle tissue. 2 to 4 sessions a week can dramatically increase both mass and mitochondrial number. Feed the mitochondria. Prioritize nutrient-dense proteins, lean red meat, pasture eggs, salmon, and spinach. Consider adding creatine 3 to 5 g daily and carnitine 500,000 mg if approved by your physician. Use strategic fasting, short fasting windows, 14-16 hours, enhance mitochondrial autophagy, your cells cleanup process, clearing damaged mitochondria and making room for new ones. Optimize oxygen. Simple breathing drills, daily walks, or zone 2 cardio improve mitochondrial oxygen delivery. Remember, mitochondria are only as efficient as their oxygen supply. Sleep to recharge. Mitochondrial repair peaks during deep sleep. Missing that stage means missing recovery. Even the best diet can't outwork poor rest. So when we talk about fighting sarcopenia, what we're really talking about is restoring your energy grid. When you build muscle, you're not just shaping your body, you're turning the lights back on in every cell. That's the biology of youth, no matter your age. If this has been eye-opening so far, make sure to subscribe. I share deep dives like this every week, connecting your physiology to real-world habits that help you stay strong, energized, and metabolically young for life. Here's something most people never think about. You can eat the perfect food at the wrong time. And that's why you might still be losing muscle, even with enough protein in your diet. What the research now shows is that timing protein intake is just as important as total daily protein, especially if you're over 40, because after about age 35, your body's anabolic response, meaning its ability to turn protein into muscle, begins to decline. But that decline isn't inevitable. You can reverse it simply by eating strategically, not constantly, but intelligently. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Muscle building depends on something called muscle protein synthesis, MPS, a process controlled by amino acids, especially leucine, insulin, and hormones like growth hormone and testosterone. Think of MPS like a light switch. It doesn't stay on all day. It flicks on for a few hours after a meal rich in protein, then shuts off. So if you constantly snack or spread tiny amounts of protein across the day, that switch never fully flips on. You're stimulating, but never building. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine trying to fill a swimming pool with a garden hose that you keep turning on and off every 10 seconds. You waste water, but the pool never fills. Now, imagine using one strong stream for 20 minutes straight. The pool fills efficiently. That's what protein pulsing does for your muscles. So, what are the three critical protein windows you can leverage to rebuild muscle and accelerate fat burning? Corrad, window one, the morning reset. This is the most underutilized anabolic window. Overnight, you fast for 8-10 hours, your liver glycogen drops, cortisol rises, and your body starts breaking down amino acids from muscle for fuel. That's why skipping breakfast can sometimes backfire for older adults. The solution: break your fast with at least 30-40 grams of high leucine protein such as eggs, whey isolate, or lean beef within an hour or two of waking. This floods your bloodstream with amino acids and flips the anabolic switch early in the day. Research from the Journal of Nutrition 2024 showed that older adults who consumed e.g. 35 grams of protein at breakfast gained 25% more lean mass compared to those eating the same total protein spread thin across meals. Due to the post-workout surge, within 1 hour after exercise, after resistance training, your muscles become like a sponge. Insulin sensitivity skyrockets and the doors to your muscle cells swing wide open. This is your best chance to refill glycogen, absorb amino acids, and repair tissue. What the latest studies from Sports Medicine 2025 show is that a combination of 30-40G protein, 3-5G creatine, some carbs, 20-40G within 1 hour post-exercise maximizes muscle protein synthesis and glycogen replenishment, especially for older adults or those in calorie deficits. If you're fasting trained or prefer low carb, that's fine. Just add the protein and creatine. The carbs are optional, but they can enhance recovery if you're training intensely or doing multiple sessions per week. Window 3, the nighttime recovery phase. 7. This one surprises people. Yes, eating protein before bed can actually boost fat burning and muscle repair. Here's why. During deep sleep, your body secretes growth hormone, a natural muscle-preserving and fat-burning hormone. But this repair process needs raw material, amino acids. A slow-digesting protein like casein, found in cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, or casein powder, releases amino acids steadily through the night. A 2025 meta-analysis in Nutrients found that consuming 30-40 grams of casein protein before bed improved overnight MPS and morning strength in adults over 50, with no negative effect on fat loss. So instead of fearing late-night eating, think of it as a recovery ritual as long as it's protein-based and low in sugar. Here, simple 24-hour muscle plan. Morning 30-40 green protein breakfast. Eggs, whey, or lean meat. Workout, train between late morning or afternoon. Post-workout, 30-40 G-gen protein. Evening, 30-40 during casein protein, or Greek yogurt before bed. That's roughly 100 and 120 G of high-quality protein spaced across 3 anabolic peaks, instead of grazing all day, which keeps insulin lower, metabolism higher, and MPS fully activated. Here's the bigger insight. Timing isn't about restriction, it's about precision. You're giving your body windows of opportunity to grow, repair, and burn fat naturally. That's what functional nutrition really means, aligning your eating with your physiology, not your schedule. If this kind of science-backed strategy resonates with you, hit the like button and subscribe if you want weekly guidance on how to rebuild your body from the inside out, naturally and intelligently. You can eat all the right protein, lift weights, and take your supplements, but if you're still losing muscle, it might not be a lack of nutrients, it might be metabolic interference. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your muscle isn't just a tissue, it's a metabolic organ. It constantly communicates with your liver, pancreas, and even your brain through hormones and myokines, chemical messengers released by muscle contractions. When that communication breaks down, your body slips into a catabolic state, meaning it starts breaking muscle instead of building it. And there are 3 major culprits behind that breakdown. 3 silent saboteurs that make it nearly impossible to maintain lean mass after 40 unless you address them directly. CARG, muscle killer 1, chronic insulin elevation. Insulin isn't bad, it's essential for life. But when it's chronically elevated from frequent snacking, refined carbs, or late night eating, your muscle cells lose sensitivity to it. Think of insulin as a key. In a healthy body, it unlocks the door to muscle cells, allowing amino acids and glucose to enter. But with insulin resistance, the lock's jam. Nutrients can't get in, so your muscle doesn't grow, even if you're eating protein. A 2024 study from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism showed that individuals with high fasting insulin had 40% lower muscle protein synthesis rates than those with optimal insulin sensitivity, independent of total protein intake. How to fix it? Adopt time-restricted eating, e.g. 14-16-hour fasts, to improve insulin sensitivity. Prioritize resistance training. It acts like insulin therapy for your muscles. Reduce sugar and ultra-processed carbs. Instead, emphasize whole proteins and fiber-rich foods. When insulin levels drop back to normal, the muscle-building switch flips back on. B. Muscle killer 2, sleep deprivation and cortisol spikes. This one is often ignored, but devastating. Even one night of poor sleep increases cortisol and decreases testosterone, effectively turning off the body's ability to synthesize muscle. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your muscles are like workers building a house. Protein provides the bricks. Hormones like testosterone and growth hormone are the construction foremen. Now picture cortisol, the stress hormone, as a city inspector that halts the project whenever there's chaos. When cortisol stays high due to stress or lack of sleep, the inspectors never leave and the house never gets built. 2025 paper in Nature Aging showed that adults sleeping fewer than 6 hours per night had significantly lower muscle density and mitochondrial function compared to those sleeping 7-8 hours, even with similar diets. Solutions: aim for 7-8 hours of consistent darkroom sleep. Avoid caffeine after 2. Use magnesium glycinate or chamomile tea to calm your nervous system before bed. Try sleep stacking, a combination of low lighting, deep breathing, and a high-protein evening snack. This one shift can accelerate recovery and muscle preservation faster than most supplements. Muscle killer 3, chronic inflammation. If your body is inflamed, it can't grow, period. Inflammation damages mitochondria, blocks nutrient absorption, and interferes with the mTOR pathway, the master switch for muscle growth. Chronic inflammation can come from hidden sources: poor gut health, processed seed oils, environmental toxins, and nutrient deficiencies, especially omega-3 and vitamin D. A 2025 meta-analysis in Frontiers in Nutrition confirms that adults with higher CRP, inflammation marker levels, had 30% less muscle mass and 50% lower strength than those with low inflammation, even when exercise and protein intake were the same. Here's the fix. Replace seed oils, canola, soybean with olive oil, avocado oil, or ghee. Eat anti-inflammatory foods, wild salmon, turmeric, ginger, leafy greens. Support gut health with fermented foods and prebiotic fiber. Get 20 minutes of sunlight daily for natural vitamin D synthesis. When inflammation drops, mTOR reactivates, mitochondria thrive, and your muscle regains its ability to grow naturally without artificial boosters. The takeaway: muscle isn't just about eating protein. It's about creating the internal environment where protein can actually work, where insulin is sensitive, cortisol is low, and inflammation is under control. Fix those 3, and even modest nutrition and exercise begin to yield massive results. Your body starts to respond like it did years ago: strong, lean, and metabolically alive. If this kind of science-based content is helping you connect the dots, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because next we're bringing it all home. Let's take a step back for a moment. We've talked about anabolic resistance, how your muscle cells stop responding to protein as you age. We've exposed the food that reignites that response, the one that builds muscle faster than sardines ever could. We've explored timing, hormones, sleep, and inflammation. But when you put it all together, something powerful happens. Your muscle becomes metabolically awake again. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Every cell in your muscle is like a tiny power plant. When those cells are active and nourished, they burn fat, regulate blood sugar, balance hormones, and send anti-aging signals throughout your body. That's why building and protecting muscle isn't just about looking strong, it's about staying alive longer and better. Muscle tissue communicates directly with your brain, liver, and immune system. It releases molecules called myokine compounds that reduce inflammation, increase insulin sensitivity, and improve mitochondrial health. In other words, the stronger your muscles, the younger your metabolism. Let me simplify everything we've covered into 4 daily principles, your muscle rebuild blueprint. When choose the right protein. Not all proteins are created equal. For maximum muscle synthesis, focus on high leucine animal proteins like eggs, beef, and whey isolate. Plant proteins can work too, but combine them like lentils plus quinoa or pea per rice to reach that leucine threshold. Aim for 30-40 grams of protein per meal 3 times daily. This isn't about excess, it's about precision. Your body only grows when it gets enough of the right amino acids at once. To a time, right? Remember, it's not constant eating that builds muscle. It's strategic eating. Hit those 3 anabolic windows: morning reset, breakfast, post-workout surge, nighttime recovery phase. That's when your hormones, mitochondria, and muscle fibers are most responsive. You're syncing with your biology instead of fighting against it. 3, control insulin, cortisol, and inflammation. These 3 are the silent governors of muscle health. If they're high, nothing else works. Joe, practice intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating 12-16 hours overnight. Get 7-8 hours of sleep in a dark, cool room. Eliminate refined carbs and seed oils. Use movement as medicine, daily resistance training, walking, or even bodyweight exercises. These are the metabolic levers that keep your muscle cells switched on. 4, create recovery rituals. Muscle growth doesn't happen in the gym, it happens during recovery. So protect your rest days. Use tools like magnesium glycinate for relaxation, 20 minutes of sunlight for vitamin D and circadian rhythm alignment, deep breathing, or short evening stretches to lower cortisol. This isn't just about adding muscle, it's about retraining your biology to heal. Now here's your challenge. For the next 14 days, implement just one of these changes. It might be hitting 30 grams of protein at breakfast or adding a pre-bed casein shake or cutting out seed oils. Whatever it is, measure how your body feels, your energy, strength, and focus. Your muscle will start responding. Your metabolism will begin to shift. And you'll prove to yourself that sarcopenia isn't destiny. It's a metabolic signal you can turn off.